he's not here to save the world. On this episode of The Devil's Workshop, it's David Yarovesky's Brightburn. Brightburn is a dark superhero horror twist on the classic Superman origin story, asking what would happen if an alien child adopted by human parents turned out to be evil instead of heroic. The plot follows Tori and Kyle Breyer, a rural Kansas couple who find a baby boy in a crashed spaceship and raise him as their own. As Brandon turns 12, he begins to discover his incredible superhuman abilities, including flight, super strength, and near invulnerability. But rather than using them for good, an ominous alien directive begins to corrupt his mind. Overcome by a chilling sense of superiority and malice, Brandon turns against his classmates, neighbors, and eventually his own terrified family, embarking on a brutal and gory killing spree to, quote, take the world. Hello, and welcome to the Devil's Workshop podcast. I'm your host, Katie Oliver.
And I am your host, Nik Oliver.
And can I reveal a fun fact?
Sure.
About this episode?
Sure.
This is my least favorite of all the movies that we've covered so far.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Interesting.
I really do not like it.
Wow.
Yeah. What about you?
I certainly wouldn't say that. I'm really surprised to hear you say that, actually.
Wait, what is your least favorite of everything that we've covered?
Oh, gosh. I'd have to look at the list. I'm not sure. I love every movie equally. They're like my own children. I just love some more equally than others.
That's right. That's very Animal Farm of you.
I would have, to be frank with you, I'd have to look at the list and...
Oh, do.
My least favorite of the movies?
Yeah.
Oh, gosh.
Not worst, but your personal least favorite.
Oh, well, it's hard to say. I don't know. Wolfman, maybe?
Oh, wow, really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to say Cherry Falls.
No. Yeah, Cherry Falls.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably Cherry Falls.
That's funny.
Leprechaun is a contender for that. Which
Leprechaun
in retrospect is kind of a bold choice that we would in trying to get people to listen to our show. The second episode we ever did was Leprechaun. So any audience member we do get to start with, we're making damn sure they don't return.
Yeah.
If we get them for seconds, we make sure they regret that decision.
Yeah, no dessert for this podcast. I mean, to me, Leprechaun is like too silly to be particularly offensive.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's bad. It's a real dump of a movie.
Yeah. Urban Legend would be in contention for that as well. Yeah. Urban Legend would be a real contender for that.
Sure.
But why? What about this?
I think it comes down to it
to the extent that you could talk about that outside of the workshop.
Right. And I'm sure I'll unpack it in greater detail when we get to the workshop, but it really just comes down to it being not for me. And I think I don't like I think the premise is really interesting. Like, oh, what if Superman but bad? Mm-hmm. But it turns out that I don't like it. Because to me, Superman is such a hopeful story, and it's such an affirming story. An alien could crash land on our world, as the sort of last bid of two desperate alien parents. And two humans could welcome that child into their home. I think there's something really lovely about it.
Yeah, it's a very optimistic story. Obviously.
And I think and I do not ascribe any malice on behalf of the filmmakers or the people attached to the movie, but there's something about it that just winds up feeling kind of xenophobic to me. It just kind of bums me out.
Interesting.
It just bums me out. I just don't really like it. I don't think it's a worthless movie or anything like that, but I also don't really care for the execution. And again, I don't want to get too much into the weeds before we get to our workshop.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I hear you on that. I mean, sometimes there are things in life that are nice, right? And so you don't want to see.
I just don't want to see it spoiled.
You don't want to see it corrupted. You don't want to see that idea.
Even though from a distance, I absolutely do think like, yeah, that's a great premise. You know,
Sure.
like what if we take a familiar American story and kind of play with it a little bit? I mean, you know, it's a cromulent movie to have made. It's just not for me.
Okay.
But I'm really excited to talk about it.
Yeah. Okay. That's interesting. Well, I think we probably ought to go right into the workshop.
Let's do it.
Given what you've just said.
Yeah. So I didn't mean to drop a bomb on the episode.
No. That's fine. I think that's I get where you're coming from on that. I mean, obviously, I don't share in that reaction to it, but yeah, you know, I can see how you have something like I don't want to see a movie about an evil Mr. Rogers.
Yeah,
right? Like that's like Mr. Rogers is precious.
Yeah,
so I don't really. I mean, I won't deny the possibility that there's fruitful ground there, I guess, if you want to parody that.
Yeah,
or that
it's
a
could
very
be...
innocent, good-hearted thing, and so you don't want to see a version of that idea corrupted.
There's so little in this world that's pure. Or not, I won't say the word pure, but like that's truly good.
Yeah.
You know, like.
And Superman is a generally uncomplicated.
Yeah, and there's,
hero,
you know,
relatively speaking.
There was a part of me watching this movie that's like, Superman's my friend. He wouldn't do that. Like he would save me if I fell off of a balcony. He would not, you know, laser beam me until I caught a flame.
Right.
You know what I mean? But I don't know. Again, like, if it had been executed perfectly, maybe this movie would be or could be for me, but it's not, and so it's not.
Right.
But let's get into the workshop.
Yeah, hence why we need to talk about it. All right, let's get right into the workshop. Okay, well, I have to say, I think this is going to be, for me, I mean, you may have a big, long list of complicated points. In this one, I don't.
Sure.
Both on the for or against side for this movie, in terms of what I like or dislike about it. So I think this movie is uncomplicated in a way. Like the things that are functional are fairly obvious. The things that are non-functional are also very obvious. So I wouldn't be surprised if this is our shortest workshop.
Sure.
And it's probably not even going to be close.
At
least for me.
Yeah.
We'll see. But that said, let's go with it. What's working for you?
Yeah, oh gosh, I should have looked up his name before we got started, but the little boy actor who plays Brandon, the evil super boy, I think he gives a good performance in this.
Okay, he's fine.
Oh, I'm trying here.
He's fine.
I'm trying. You know, I mean, a kid actor, you know, acting like a sociopath convincingly, and like he has superpowers convincingly. I mean, it's kind of a big, multifaceted ask for a young actor, and I think he handles himself.
He's okay. Yeah, I mean, he could have ruined this movie, and like this movie hinges on this kid's performance in large part. And I don't think it's particularly successful. I also don't think he ruins it. But for a child actor, that's it. I suppose you could count that as a win, that he doesn't ruin it, because child actors often do.
Not ruining something is like the silver medal of child acting.
Yeah, right. And so, you know, I mean, he was a kid. I'm not picking on the poor kid, but I think that his performance is pretty flat. So as a sociopath, I mean, our idea as a culture of a sociopath, it tends to be like very Hannibal Lecter. So it's either very like cunning, you know, very flat, or dispassionate. So the other like TV Hannibal, right? So very even. Clinical, yeah. Whereas so his version is very dispassionate. So he checks out really, rather than being passionate or angry or emotive, which I think would have suited the performance better, frankly. I don't think that the collected, calm psychopath role, it doesn't make sense to me. Kids aren't put together in that way. Even young kids, generally, like even a kid in that circumstance, it doesn't read as true to me.
Yeah, I think I think it would
It's just
feel,
easier to perform that, you know?
I think it would feel a little more natural if he were a little older. And I'm not talking about the child, the actor. I mean like the character. Like if this kid were like 16 or something, I think the way they play him would make more sense to me.
Yeah.
Okay, any performances other than his that you want to talk about? I mean,
everybody else in the movie's fine. I don't... Elizabeth Banks doesn't totally work for me.
Yeah.
I like Elizabeth Banks, mostly because she has a role in 30 Rock, where I think she's really funny. So, in a completely separate thing, I don't know her career particularly well. I understand. She was in Zack and Miri Make a Porno, which is
I like her in that.
I like her in that.
She does the Hunger Games stuff, though I haven't seen any of those.
Yeah, that's not for me.
She does like the fucking stoner comedies every now and again. Wasn't she in Cocaine Bear or something?
I think she directed Cocaine Bear.
What it was. That's what it was.
To her discredit, probably.
Yeah.
You know, nobody's perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's... I kind of don't...
She's... Okay, I like her in general. So let me preface this. No shade to Elizabeth Banks, because I think she's a fine actress, but she was like a grain of sand in this for me. Like that makes the pearl. Except the performance was not the pearl. It was just irritating me. But we're in the happy part of the workshop.
That's right. Yeah.
So sorry. Oh, something I liked. A simple thing. I don't have much to say about it, but hey, it was always nice to see Michael Rooker in a cameo.
Sure.
I think he's
a charming guy.
He is.
Yeah.
He is. I find him likable and strange.
Yeah, there's a slight historical... I'm not sure what the term is I want. I suppose it isn't historical. Maybe it is. But this was not directed or written by James Gunn. But it was produced by him. And I believe it was written by a James Gunn, like his brother or something. Like somebody who's in the Gunn family, right? The lesser... the unloved brother, right?
Braham's Gunn.
Right. So, but James Gunn, of course, directed Superman recently.
Right.
So he would go on and have another vision of what Superman would be and what that would look like. So he did have a slight dalliance with Superman prior to actually having that IP himself. At this point, he was with Marvel. He was doing the Guardians of the Galaxy movies. Though, of course, again, he didn't direct this, but he did have some involvement with it, of course. Sure. Which is why Michael Rooker is in this.
Right.
Because he played Yondu in the Guardians of the Galaxy movies. So that connection was there.
I'm trying to think. Other things. I think this movie is most interesting to me. I won't necessarily say most successful, but most interesting when it's like a family drama. Mm-hmm. I'm a lot more interested in the drama elements than any of the horror elements.
Yeah. Sure. I agree with that.
Big time. Yeah. I wanted this movie to be like a little classier than it is. Mm-hmm. I'll talk about that more later, but I was interested in like the story of like, what do you do when your son is a sociopath and you don't really realize it or you don't see it or like the switch doesn't flip or whatever until puberty hits. That's, that's a shape of a movie. That's like, we have to talk. Yeah. We need to talk about Kevin.
Right.
There's another, I feel like I'm forgetting one too. I can't think of what it is.
Well, that's the most,
that's the prominent.
The one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which would also star the person who would go on to be the Flash.
And who has a checkered...
Who we need to talk about as well, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let me say my one point, because it seems like you're really scraping for something to say, which I do have something to say about that's positive. So I like a good hook. So, I mean, you obviously were less interested in the way this movie turned out, but... I like a strong, grab your attention kind of premise. And this movie, I think it's a really good idea. Obviously not one that necessarily pulled you in, as alluded to in the introduction to the episode. But I mean, a lot of things happened here. I mean, you have the intersection of a decent budget, the modern special effects that let you do superhero things, right? I mean, it happened at the right time for that. You had the right people behind it to pay for it. You had superheroes in the zeitgeist. So this is 2019. Mm-hmm. So this is sort of peak Marvel. I think this is around I meant to look at this, but this is Avengers Endgame, I think.
Yeah, because I think like Black Panther is like 2018 or so.
We're somewhere in that neighborhood. But COVID hasn't happened yet, so we don't have that.
Yeah, it's not a freak COVID movie.
Yeah, but Marvel hasn't fizzled out. I mean, they've hit their climax, but they haven't sort of kept going to diminishing returns. DC, the source material that's inspiring this to an extent, they're not doing so great, but
they haven't completely embarrassed themselves
so
yet.
Superhero fatigue is something that we're all like, oh, no more, but at that time everybody was predicting it, but it hadn't quite happened, so it was the right time for this movie to happen.
The wave is kind of cresting, I think.
Yeah, so that's all, like, it's the right time, the right circumstances, and the idea for this is so obvious in a way. But nobody's done it, right? So it's so obvious that once it's pointed out to you, you're like, well, how did nobody already think of this?
Yeah, no, and I completely agree with you that this is a great idea for a movie.
And I like ideas like that. Well, I like the kind of idea, like, how did nobody think of this already? It's so obvious.
Well, and it's like evil Superman has been done a million times, but probably not evil little boy Superman. Like evil, like growing up in
well,
Kansas.
Evil Superman in the comic books, I'm sure, is been done. But in this context, a horror movie, right? Who's your horror villain? It's Superman, right? That's a good idea. I think that's a good idea, and it makes sense in so many ways because so many slasher movie villains are essentially just people with superpowers, right? I mean, it's not Superman's superpowers, but if they're just human beings who have extraordinary things that they can do, if you frame that differently, that's a superpower, right? So in this, the idea is so obvious. You have the notion of how you're going to do a movie like this. It all makes sense to me. And in really lots of movies are horror movies if you just change the framing slightly.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So an action movie, let's say, where somebody comes through, Arnold Schwarzenegger comes through and kills your whole village or whatever. He blows it up with a machine gun. If you're in the South American village that he blows up in Predator or whatever, like, that's a horror movie to you.
Yeah,
and Arnold Schwarzenegger's your villain, right?
It's all perception and framing.
Yeah.
And I do think, like, it's a fairly well-established idea in pop culture that, like, the only thing that keeps Superman from being, like, from, dominating the world as its God King is just that he has a lot of moral fiber, like that, we've all seen, like, the comic panels and stuff of him, like, pulling back at the last second from absolutely obliterating someone.
Sure.
Or, like, it's trodden ground, just not in this way.
Not in a horror movie, right? So I'm sure you could find a million examples of that in a comic book, but but they were the first ones to do it, so hats off to them.
Props to them.
That's great.
Props to them. It's a great idea. It's not their fault that it didn't resonate with me in its execution.
Well, no, that is definitely their fault.
Sure. That's true. Wait, that's true.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Yeah, screw those guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, so...
Sorry, I'm still thinking about that. I wanted to talk about something, and I do like this. I think there was a shape for this movie that I was predicting where, like, you see the little boy, Brandon, in, like, class at school. Kids are picking on him. So I'm like, oh, we're going to get the inevitable bullying scene. And he's accidentally going to maim or kill one of his bullies because he fights back. And, oh, God, like something like that.
Sure.
But the movie kind of swerves on you to show instead him, like, preying on women.
Yeah, unexpectedly, the bully character lives through the movie.
He's fine.
Yeah.
And he probably dies eventually because...
Yeah, he's sitting there shitting bricks.
Yeah, like, oh,
after
no!
the credits roll. Like, Superman's gonna come get me.
But I was interested in the way, like, this film chose the nastier angle, which is, like, sexual predation. I thought that was an interesting choice.
Yeah.
Legitimately.
Sure.
And I think they could have taken it, if not farther, then deeper. But I was kind of like, okay, movie, this is interesting to me. Like, someone shows you affection or someone expresses interest in you, and you use it against them. You know, like you stalk the little girl you have a crush on, you kill her mom, you know, like that's nasty. And so that I can appreciate.
Sure. Look, I don't have that much else to say.
Nor do I.
Before we transition to the what's not working section, I would like to say, like, I don't think this movie's terrible or anything. I don't have that much. Like, the what's not working is going to be correspondingly short for me. I think it works. It's coherent. Lots of movies that we watch, like the really bad ones, you just like, okay, what are these? Who are these characters? What do they want? Why are people doing the things that they're doing? How do we get from here to there? You know, there's the basic fun, like, storytelling stuff that doesn't work, right? I don't think any of that's here. I think that they just made creative choices that aren't good.
Sure.
That's really my issue. So there's lots of... so I don't have that much to praise. I also don't have that much to criticize, which is going to make it such a unique entry for us.
Yeah, absolutely.
At least in my part. That's my opinion. So I'm not speaking for you on that.
I know we usually, I meant to ask you this at the beginning of the episode, but since we're kind of in a transition between segments of the workshop, can I ask you, like, what is your relationship to the Superman mythos, if you have one? I
liked comic books growing up. Yeah,
But you're more of a Marvel kid, right?
Yeah, that too. But I wasn't I didn't particularly care for Superman or anything. I was never that into it. It was around.
Sure. I mean, he's kind of a ubiquitous figure in, like, the American imagination, I guess. I don't have a hugely robust relationship to the Superman mythos myself. I mean, I grew up a DC kid because I grew up with, like, you know, Batman the Animated Series airing, loved it. Didn't get into comics until later, like, as a young teenager. But, like, I'm a Batman kid before I'm really anything else. Though I do like and appreciate Superman. And again, I really like what he represents, you know, like, Americans, believing in people from, in this case, outer space. But, you know, having a generosity of spirit. I think that's pleasant and aspirational and heartwarming. You know, I think it's nice. I was just curious because, you know, I wonder what a Superman freak would think of this movie. Like, would they be amused by it just as, like, a high concept what if story, or would they be like, not my Superman? I don't know.
Well, unfortunately, there is not one of those on this podcast.
No. So should we talk about what's not working?
Boy, I hope so.
Okay. We already alluded to this somewhat. Pretty much all of the performances fall flat for me. I just, like, I don't feel like they're the same people from moment to moment. Except for Elizabeth Banks, whose character's sole trait seems to be, like, I want a son and I would do anything for him unless... It just, for some reason, I found myself really irritated with this character. And I'm not 100% that I could articulate why. It just felt shallow to me.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, look, she doesn't feel... What do I think about her performance? I vacillate on it some because they give her the texture. When you first meet her, her hair is dyed. I think she has a band t-shirt on or something. Like, she's a little bit out of context in the Midwest, deliberately. I mean, they've created her to be that. And she never loses that. She always feels a little bit out of context on the farm in Kansas, you know.
Yeah.
She doesn't feel like she belongs there, but she doesn't quite lose the, like, I'm from New York City quality about her that she has.
Yeah.
That's... They obviously were trying to address that some and give her an out of context trait. She's a painter. You see her doing that, so she's a creative type, whereas most everybody else is very stock. I'm a farm hand. I work at the diner. You know, those types of Midwest characters. Where
sure.
She's obviously not that. So there's consideration given to it. So it doesn't. I can't quite put my finger on what it is that doesn't totally work for me, but. I don't find it offensive either. It's a little distracting just because she's just has that trait about her, I suppose. But
I feel like, and maybe this was just me feeling like she was being really irresponsible about Brandon. Because, I mean, like, the dad is pretty easy to convince that his son is a monster. He's like, I don't even know if that kid's human. Mm-hmm. like he seems pretty convinced shortly into the movie that Brandon's a monster. But she, like, even when, like, late in the movie when the sheriff comes to her door, shows her the sigil that's been found at the 2 crime scenes, she's like, I don't know, it's not Brandon. Mm-hmm. I'm like, it's Brandon. You've seen the mark. You saw him drawing it. And the character really lost me in that moment. Because I was like, ooh, wow. Like, you're choosing, your murderer child over, I don't know, over, like, just the lives of normal people. Mm-hmm. And I guess there are people in this world who will do that. But it put me off.
Yeah, I mean, so we can talk about some of the particular choice, like really granular stuff like that, which I think that's warrants talking about. But before going down that road, I'd like to zoom out for my part personally, which is which is to me the real issue with this movie, like the problem. So for me, what isn't working here? It uses the premise of this movie in the least interesting way. So the movie's just bland. This movie's bland as shit. So like in a lot of the movies we talk about, again, who are these characters? What do they want? How did we get here? Why are people doing the things that they're doing? I don't think we have those kinds of problems personally. I don't have those problems with it. But despite that, I would never recommend this movie to anyone.
What
personally,
is there to really
because
recommend?
It's just so bland. So that creative choice, I think, that gives it the real problem here. So right at the beginning of the movie, Brandon is called to by the spaceship, the one that he came in as a baby, right? They pull him out from the woods. So he just turns evil, right?
Yeah.
So he just all of a sudden he's bad. So we have a good sweet kid who, boom, he's bad, right? That kills the movie for me. There's no psychological depth to him whatsoever. So the rest of the movie, is not strong enough to carry that choice, to make our lead character, who is also our villain, but he's our lead character too, to give him no depth. The rest of the movie is not strong enough to carry that choice. So we don't get to linger with the parent struggles with Brandon's change, because they spend so much time lingering with the misunderstanding that him acting like an asshole is because he's going through puberty. So we spend a lot of time with that tension rather than them dealing with the situation as it is. And then eventually you get a little bit of tension between the two characters because he thinks he's turned evil and Mom doesn't. Right. So there's a little bit of tension between the two of them, but it's not enough, and it's much too late. And so by the time the mother has figured that out, we're in our final set piece, right? So we're just it's kind of over. Like, the character tension is over. Now we're in plot, right? So but character will drive your movie, which we don't have that. The performances, I don't think everybody's flat as you do. I think everybody's fine. You can say some people are a little better than others, certainly.
But I don't think it's enough.
But it's not enough. Yeah. So we don't have like a really strong performance, I think, from anybody. We really need one from the kid, which I don't think we have. So the movie's not successful as a performance-driven movie.
Yeah. But that's what it needs to be.
Which it needs to be. Among other things. The kills aren't that exciting. So if you're going into it, man, I'm just going to see an exciting movie about Superman killing people, right? Which that's fine if you are in for that, and I can enjoy that. So I'm not above that. But the kills, I don't think are really that exciting. A lot of them happen off screen. We cut away as soon as he gets to somebody. We have some awkward CG in some places. I do think the final set piece, like, in isolation, has some fun stuff to it.
I think so too.
But again, at that point, we've come off of so much else that is so boring that it doesn't land as it otherwise would. Yeah. So it doesn't work as an excuse to see exciting death sequences. And there's no metaphorical depth to the movie. So there's nothing, I think there's a lot of ground here that you could really wrestle with when it comes to like, oh, I'm a parent who's adopting a child, and I'm going to try and love that child, but I don't know who that person is really. Like, are they of me or are they somebody else? I don't know. And is it enough for me to love them and care for them? Can I love them if they're not mine? Or will they be mine, right? There's that struggle that you could deal with there. There's Brandon as an alien, which is akin to having a sociopath. I mean, he is functionally turns into a sociopath or some kind of a conquering force or something, right? But if you have if your own kid turns into if your child is a sociopath, which happens, right? You have these freak cases, unfortunately, where good parents produce a sociopath for no apparent reason. It just seems to happen. I mean, a sociopath in their way of thinking is very alien to the way that you or I would think. So that could be your metaphor, right? That what you're dealing with, like the way that an audience would recognize this, say, okay, I don't understand what it's like to have an alien, literally an alien under my care, who is raised to then kill me and overthrow me and all that stuff. I can't understand that, but I have this fear. I have this latent fear that my kid's going to turn out fucked up for no reason beyond my control. Like, I can relate to that and I can understand that. So I, the audience member, am having horror resulting from watching this bizarre situation that on the surface looks nothing like my life. You could do that. Well, this movie doesn't do that, right? It doesn't do that. It squanders it. So every choice that's made is kind of the worst choice to make.
It's the most choiceless choice.
That produces a functional movie in the end.
Yeah.
Like, the movie works, but
it's
I would never recommend it.
Yeah, it's like you have technically made a choice. And by the end, you have technically made a movie, but it just doesn't feel like much of anything.
Right.
You've touched with your points on a lot of what I wanted to talk about. One of the things that I wanted to just linger with for a second is how much I dislike the gore in this movie. The killing starts so late into things that it kind of felt like it came out of nowhere. Not the killing, but just like the intensity of the violence. Like, the first thing you see is like, a big halogen bulb like shattering into a woman's eye and her like picking the pieces out of her eyeball and stuff.
That feels like it belongs in a different movie.
Yeah, like, what is this? Yeah. Why am I watching it? Like, it's not that I dislike gore or anything. In fact, quite the opposite. It can be really enjoyable, but I didn't think this particular concept merited it. Like, my note here is that it made me realize that I wanted this to be a classier character study as opposed to something schlocky, like a slasher movie, like you said. I wanted the horror of this to be emotional more than anything else. As you were saying, like, what do I do? Like, what do I do if I've taken someone in out of either the goodness of my heart or my own personal desire to experience parenthood, and I do everything right that I know how to do, and it doesn't even matter. Like, the child turns on me or turns on society as like a sociopath. That's so rich just in premise, and then they just like, they don't seem particularly interested. There are other elements that I don't think they take far enough as well. Like, as we said before, this movie touches on elements of, say, Brandon's like sexual sadism, right? He's got like naughty pictures under his mattress, and it's like, oh, it's lingerie models from the Sears catalog, but it's also like human organs and stuff. And then he stalks the girl that he has a crush on. He kills her mother and mutilates the mother's body and stuff. But like, I couldn't help but think, what happens to that little girl by the end of this movie? And the movie just seems to chicken out from taking that to its logical conclusion. Or like, there's a sequence where he stalks his aunt, who is also his school counselor, inside of her home, and sort of terrorizes her a little bit. Hides in
a closet.
Yeah. And I'm like, what happens to her?
Yeah.
And he kills the uncle, but weirdly, like, that moment, the uncle's death is like partially played for humor, where he's like, oh no, like as he sees the kid in the road. Like it felt like this really half-hearted attempt at like a joke.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, no, but what's he gonna do to his aunt?
Mm-hmm.
Like how he's going to violate these women, like, because that's what the movie tells you. And then it just kind of peters out at the end. And I was like, if you're gonna say something, say it, like go there. And it kind of goes there with like the mother character, Erica, the mother of his crush, whom he's like stripped nude and killed and cut open. But I'm like, what's the comment? Like it felt half-assed to me.
Sure.
Not that I'm like clamoring to see violence against women, but I'm like, if you're gonna put this idea on the table, I want you to serve it to me. You know what I mean? Another thing I wanted to talk about, and this is something we just barely touched on right after we watched the movie, is that like the pacing feels off and the events of the plot feel like they come out of order. Did you get that at all?
Yeah.
Like sometimes I'm like, no, like this is a huge de-escalation from the stuff that's just been happening. Why is this happening now? Or why didn't this happen 40 minutes ago or something? It's odd. It's hard to talk about. But I was just like, this is, for a 90-minute movie, I thought it dragged.
Sure.
I feel bad. I feel like I'm really lambasting this
thing. No, that was that's tricky to talk about, of course, because for our purpose, it's hard to wrestle with that. But yeah, the scenes felt like they were all edited to the kind of a weird rhythm. It was like every scene took the exact same length of time. Like scenes in a movie should be edited in such a way. I'm not far from a film editing person. Like some people are really recognize that. I'm not one of those people. Like so that's a flaw in my critical apparatus, right? So I mean, I'll speak to it occasionally here and there, but it seems like what you want to have is some variety in the length of your scenes. It's kind of like writing. So if you're writing a paragraph, right? So you want your sentences to be of varying length. Yes. Otherwise, it feels monotonous really fast. So you say, Jack and Jill went up the hill. Jack and Jill did this because they were asking about why their mother was going up the hill. They stopped. So you're varying rhythms there. Otherwise, your attention sort of drifts away from you. Like the reader in this case, the attention would drift away. The movie feels like it's having some version of that problem. I'm commenting on that from a really, really amateurish perspective, to be frank. I'm far from being an editor.
If you hadn't brought up sentence length variation as a sort of analog to this, I would have, because I think it's one of those things where like your subconscious mind notices it even before your conscious mind.
Right.
But it really does have an impact. Sorry, did I interrupt you?
No, we're good.
Yeah, it just feels like, I mean, for all our talk about the tight 90 on this podcast, like that should not feel like boring or draggy. Like that should be barely enough time to get everything done and put a cherry on top. You know what I mean? Like we should be in and out, and it should feel brisk, and everything in the movie should feel purposeful. But like scenes I felt like I was watching the same day play out again and again and again with like these occasional moments of intensification. It felt like the gore was supposed to be a stand-in for like emotional escalation. Like, oh no, something bad happened. Oh no, someone, just got laser beamed in the eyes. I guess that means we're nearing the climax. It just, sure. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah,
I hear you. I mean, I will contradict you a little bit on the gore personally. I like the gore when it does happen, just because that's the superhero premise. I mean, you're talking about a superhero heroic character, especially somebody like Superman, right? Superman in his first movie. I mean, I understand it's all part of how we think about Superman, so I think it's fair game to talk about the movie, not the comic books. But in the first movie, Superman's so fucking powerful that he flies around the planet and spins it backwards. He is so strong, he spins the planet backwards so as to reverse time to save Lois Lane from dying. if you're that strong and you punch somebody, they're going to be vaporized.
Red mist.
Right? I mean, they just turn into a red cloud, like right away.
Yeah.
So the violence that we get in this, I do like the way that it seems, because it's the only realistic to me version of this premise, right? This guy, if he's going to be violent to somebody, is going to obliterate them instantly.
That's true, though I think like a lot of the, or at least some of the kills don't even really, it's not direct like Superman to victim violence. Like making a light bulb explode in someone's face.
Oh, that's lame, yeah.
That's dumb.
That's dumb, yeah.
Or like, yes, he picks up the car that his uncle is driving with his super strength, but the car is what devastates the man. It's not him.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I was like,
well, sure. I mean, in that case, he's trying to cover up he doesn't want to be caught.
But then he draws his little insignia.
Yeah.
So I'm like, what are we doing?
That sociopaths do that.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, like serial killers will do things of
That's
that
true.
sort.
That's true.
So that actually added to it for me.
Sure. But yeah, I'm glad you agree with me on the light bulb thing. I was like, I don't like that.
That felt like that happened because that to me felt like he was there. Like, I'm going to terrorize this lady. That'll show her, right? And then a light bulb explodes in her face, and he was like, "Oh, damn." Yeah. Like almost like he would be disappointed.
I know.
Like, I don't have anything to do with that.
If it were me, I'd be like,
she coincidentally fell over and broke her neck, right?
Yeah. Can you imagine like a serial killer is like stalking someone? They like, pull the breaker, the light bulb explodes. They see the glass fall into someone's eye and they're like, oh my God, that's fucked up. I was just going to stab you or something, but that's crazy, dude. Yeah. But yeah, I didn't care for that.
Well, I don't have anything else to add on the what's not working section of this workshop. I mean, I'm sure I'm happy to engage with every other criticism you have. I'm sure there are plenty of good criticisms to be made.
Yeah, I feel like I'm ready to get into our revisions.
You want to go into the revision?
Yeah, but first I'm gonna go take a big bite out of my steering wheel, and then I'll be back with my revision.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm gonna go give a gun to a child without speaking to both of his parents first, and then I'll be back with my revision. Okay, so I will be starting my revision first, and we will begin. Actually, the movie's opening, I like that just fine. They're in their house. Something crashes in the woods, which of course we know as the audience already that it's going to be the alien spaceship. But then there's a slight change that happens in the opening montage for the credit sequence. So in the opening montage, in the original movie, we have some home videos. So we meet baby, then toddler Brandon Byer, right? So in revision, what we have is only a very slight change, but I'm sure you'll notice it. We got to a montage of home videos documenting baby, then toddler, then grade schooler Brandon Byer. The footage is warm and domestic on its surface, but a close inspection recalls that something is slightly off. Kyle is noticeably less affectionate than Tori. In the background of a later video, smoke can be seen emerging from a wooden storage shed. So, that's important. I have introduced a slight element to this story that is actually not scientific, but I am trying to cue the popular understanding of early childhood signs of sociopathy, which sociopathy is not a clinical diagnosis they give to a child.
Isn't it psychopathy?
No, neither is a clinical term. So some people will say those terms are interchangeable, or like, oh no, they're slightly different. Here's the way. That's all nonsense. So what the diagnosis is now in modern clinical parlance is antisocial personality disorder. You cannot be diagnosed with that under the age of 18. So they might say you have conduct disorder, or a general antisocial trait. That can be how they talk about it, but that's an adult diagnosis.
Right.
So, I mean, any psychiatrist might say that kid's a sociopath. Like, they might recognize that, but that's not a permitted clinical diagnosis.
I see.
Anyway, so I'm using older ideas here to cue in the audience, like our popular understanding of this rather than the clinical understanding. So somebody who does know this stuff might actually recognize some differences here. So I'm alluding to something called the McDonald triad. Mm-hmm. Do you know what that is?
Yes.
Okay. So for those who do not, and I didn't know it by name, but those classically understood signs of a burgeoning sociopath are bedwetting, fire starting, and cruelty to animals. Mm-hmm. So the fire starting, I didn't have a great place for it, but I thought it would be a pleasant thing to see, like a burning building, like right there in the background, just
to tickle the subconscious.
Just a little clue there if you're looking for it. Like, why that shed looks like why is there smoke coming from that shed, right? Mm-hmm. Anyway, so we've seeded that throughout. 12 years later, Tori goes to wake young Brandon, and he is already awake, instigating a game of hide and seek, whistling to one another through the house. She finds him in the barn, a building which he is not permitted, and offers a light chastisement. Kyle's version of the same reprimand is cooler, more watchful, and Brandon clocks the difference. In class, Brandon is caught drawing a stylized emblem, the shape of his own initials, and when his teacher asks him about the difference between wasps and bees, he answers with encyclopedic precision, watching his classmates' reactions with evident satisfaction. A larger, bullying classmate jeers at him. A girl, Caitlin, compliments him. Brandon files both responses away with equal, quiet interest. So I did want to keep that element, him being super smart. One thing about sociopaths, or psychopaths, if whatever your preferred term is, they actually tend to be less intelligent on average than the typical person in the population who is not that. So not Hannibal Lecter, right? Mm-hmm. So that's a version of our popular idea of that I am specifically contradicting, because he is also an alien from outer space. So in this case, I do want to actually keep his intelligence. I just feel like
he's not necessarily beholden to the
Yeah, he is still an alien. So I want that to be largely, but not at least entirely, recognizable. I am cutting the following scene, though. So that night, a red glow emerges from underneath the trapdoor in the barn. I'm cutting that element completely. So the spaceship will return. They will have that, but it is not calling to him at all. There is no red glow. None of that is taking place. So Brandon is not summoned to the barn. He doesn't show any overnight personality change because of that. He doesn't sleepwalk, and Tori keeps the sleepwalking secret from Kyle. So we're losing that. So our next scene is the next day as he attempts to mow the lawn. Brandon has difficulty starting the lawnmower and shoves it out of anger. Inadvertently launches it into the air, tossing it an extraordinary distance. He approaches it as it is overturned and still running, and studies it with bafflement. So, slight change to that scene. In the original cut, he feels compelled to thrust his hand into the spinning blade, and which, of course, destroys the mower, and he is fine. So I'm changing that because I want to take away the element of him feeling possessed. Like, oh, I'm doing this. I feel compelled to throw it in. Oh wow, I'm a superhero. I'm going to kill everyone. Like we're sort of letting him discover that. I don't want him to do that, and I want him to have that moment to be as confused and puzzled by that as anybody would be. Mm-hmm. So changing that slightly. So we are proceeding into the party at the diner. Brandon insists that he should have the rifle. So Uncle Brandon and Uncle Noah and Aunt Marilee give Brandon a rifle, a hunting rifle, like a smaller kid's rifle. And Kyle's not on board with that, right? What I'm changing in this scene, so everybody reacts to him as if his behavior is out of character. We're changing that. So I don't want everyone to be so surprised. At least I don't want Kyle to be so surprised that he's acting like that. We're going to have a follow-up scene that, like, oh man, that was so unlike him to do that. That's what I want to lose, right? Mm-hmm. So this is maybe not so unusual a thing for him to do. So later on, that night, Kyle admits to worrying about Brandon. But she says, Tori, that he is growing older and changing, that they were so much worse at his age, that her parents had stopped caring about her by then. Kyle seems troubled, but suggests that the three of them go camping together. again, we're losing all the context of him. Like, oh, well, Brandon's such a good kid. I can't believe he would act like that. Like, let's believe that he would act like that.
Mm-hmm.
The next morning, Kyle suspects something is wrong with Brandon when he finds him absent-mindedly chewing and mangling his fork at breakfast, which seems to surprise even Brandon. Tori, changing the sheets after finding that Brandon has wet the bed again, finds photos of lingerie and swimsuit models, surgical diagrams, and graphic photos of human organs hidden underneath Brandon's mattress in Brandon's room. So this scene in the original movie does feel like that doesn't completely make sense because Brandon has only turned evil like yesterday. Mm-hmm. So automatically he has dirty pictures. Yeah, he has dirty pictures under his mattress, but alongside that, gore images like and like stuff he got off of Rotten.com or whatever, like these images of surgeries and stuff. That feels like that happens really, really fast. Mm-hmm. Like, that kid went straight to the internet. Like, oh, I'm evil now. What evil shit can I find? So here, if we're representing the idea that maybe Brandon's not well when the movie starts, like that's who he is. Not so strange. So, the following scene, the camping trip, Kyle giving the talk to Brandon about his sexuality, that whole thing, which is amusing enough in the movie. I do like that little scene. That's cute enough. Him taking that as a tacit encouragement to go to Caitlin's house and hiding behind the curtains and all that. I like that scene. I want to keep that as it is for the most part. Then we proceed on. We have Tori visits the school, talks to Marilee about his behavior, which Marilee attributes that to puberty. She does see Brandon drawing the emblem in the notebook. That night, Kyle observes the chickens in their coop, terrified by Brandon, who is standing over them. Even later that night, Kyle is awoken to find the chickens brutally slaughtered with the coop's locked door torn off its hinges. Kyle insists Brandon was responsible, but Tori insists it was a wolf attack. Brandon says, "You remember what happened," or excuse me, Kyle says, "You remember what happened to Astro," a name which has been previously unheard. And Tori says, incredulously, "That was an accident." So that's all we're going to get of that. Mm-hmm. We're going to get a passing reference. We have no further explanation. It's not mentioned before. It's not mentioned after. But Astro, clearly a pet's name. So we want to have the slight mention that probably Brandon has hurt an animal. Astro?
The super dog.
Yeah, Astro is the name of... I couldn't... This was not intentional. Astro is the name of the dog on the Jetsons.
Ah.
But I was trying to come up with a name that was like Crypto,
sure,
which is Superman's dog, and Astro, which I inadvertently just stole the name of another popular like space dog.
Oh my god! So like, what if the Jetsons were evil?
So, anyway, So the next thing after that, we have the trust fall exercise at the school. We have Brandon hurting Caitlin. I like to play out exactly the same way. We have Erica from the diner, who is the mother. We actually did see her in a previous scene. Of course, we didn't realize she was going to be a significant character, but we have that interaction playing out in much the same way. I like the scene in that office. That night, though, so the only thing that we're changing is really here is that it goes straight from the principal's office to, in the original movie, I think they're in bed or they're getting ready for bed. Tori and Kyle are saying, or they're fighting a little bit. And so that Brandon is unlike other people and that he's impervious to harm. So you realize at this point in the movie, the audience does, that they do recognize that he has never been hurt. Like that he's special physically in some way. Like they actually do know that he at least isn't vulnerable. The only thing that I'm changing here is I want to have a scene immediately prior. So I want them to get home, and I want there to be a scene where Kyle yells at Brandon for what has happened. Like and Tori to look on, but not be the equal co-parent here. Like I want her to not be contributing to that interaction. So I want him to be the disciplinarian assertive guy, and that dynamic to be seen, that she's not that, right? Which we've seen that in other places here before, but a little more explicit here, because that scene does feel missing in the original version of the movie. So, as it follows, later that night, resentful of his adoptive father, Brandon goes out to the barn and begins breaking some of his tools. In so doing, he rips the chains off of a locked trap door. Awakened by the racket, Tori heads to the barn and sees him levitate into the open cellar. Startled by Tori's arrival, he turns suddenly and cuts himself on the sharp edge of the strange object he finds within, the first time he has ever been injured. Tori reveals the truth about his arrival on Earth, that she had difficulties getting pregnant, and that they found him in the ship in the woods as a baby, taking him in and raising him as their own. Brandon angrily leaves the barn, entering the house and smashing things and calling them liars. In his rage, he develops heat vision. So, I want to show a sociopathic character as being what sociopaths tend to be. They actually tend to be very impulsive and self-destructive, and destructive of other people and their lives and their things, right? So him going to the woods and breaking his father's things. His father, who we've so far in this movie, we've seen him as like kind of a laborer, right? You see him working a lot. He's sort of that Kansas stock character. So that's what we know of him. We don't know exactly what his job is, but you get some sense that he's a stock enough character that you as an audience member make certain assumptions about him, so you don't so much question it. But I want to see him doing that. I want to see him do something like shitty, like he's gonna pay for that. Well, if you're any other kid, he'd pay for that at least. But I want to see him doing something that's like destructive and impulsive, that's going to have consequences that he's not thinking about or doesn't care about, because that's what sociopathy looks like, right? So I want to have that moment, but we also need to get him into the barn, because I am still keeping the ship in the barn. So that is unchanged for me, but I don't have the ship as being some kind of an active participant in this endeavor. I don't have the barn sending us the shed, or the ship in the shed, sending a secret message to him. So we do need to get him out there. That was my way of doing that. So we follow up. Brandon visits Caitlin with flowers and nervously tells him that her mother has forbidden her from talking to him. What's different here? I'm getting rid of the red mask and the cape. I don't like that addition here. I know why they did it. I recognize that, like, we're taking a familiar thing, the Superman look, those big, bold primary colors, those old comic book colors, and inverting them. We're making them a little darker. We're going to make them a little creepy looking. In logic, there's no... in the logic of this universe, there's no reason for him to do that. Not really.
Sure. So you don't even know where it came from.
If you look closely, you can see that the red mask is like a child like safety blanket thing that he has on his bed. So he is seen with that, like sleeping with it. But it is kind of a blink. You don't. It's so uncontextualized at that point. You don't really put it together, and there's no reason for him to then go do that do with it what he does. So I do think you can lose it and still keep the superhero idea. I don't think that's paramount. I'm happy to sacrifice that. So so the look of this movie is going to be really rather changed for me, because we're losing that bit of its visual identity, I'll say. Otherwise, that proceeds as it did before, except with the note, we're cutting the dumb fluorescent light bulb exploding into her eye. I'm happy for bulbs to blow up, because you do see electrical phenomena surrounding the use of his superpowers. I don't have a problem with that. But her getting a fragment of the light bulb to the eye, that feels like something you'd see in like an early 2000s slasher movie. It feels tonally a mismatch to both the movie that this was and the movie that I would make it to be. So we proceed on, police investigating the diner. That's much the same. The following day at school, Brandon is meeting with Marilee, who informs him that she is required to report his lack of remorse to police. That night, Brandon goes to Marilee's house and tells her in a vaguely threatening manner not to report anything to the police. Here's where the change happens. Meanwhile, Kyle is at a bar with Noah and admits to him that he doesn't think that he's a very good father. Noah expresses surprise at this, but Kyle says that in Tori's case, she fell in love with him right away, but for him it was different. He says quietly that he feels like he's raising someone else's son, but Noah, after a beat, says that Kyle isn't thinking clearly given everything that has happened recently, that he's as good a father as any he knows. Kyle appears comforted, if not convinced. So there's a couple things I want to change here, or that I want to make happen. So Noah dies shortly after this, right? So we don't know Noah as well. We've spent a little more time with Marilee up to this point. I want to give Noah, I want to make him a nicer, more sympathetic character. I want us to care at least a little bit when he dies. Mm-hmm. So him being nice to Kyle and trying to be a comforting figure to him, I want us to have a reason to feel sympathetically towards him. There's another reason that I'm doing this. So I want for Kyle to be struggling with something that I think an adoptive father, any parent might, but an adoptive father really might, which is that, I got this kid, I thought I'd fall in love with him. I'm kind of not doing that, right? I don't know how to do that. I don't know how to love this kid. I should feel a certain way about this kid, and I'm doing the things I should be doing. Mm-hmm. I'm doing the right stuff, but in my heart, I don't feel it, right? That's something that an adoptive parent might really be afraid of or even go through, right? Any parent theoretically could. You might have something where a mom loves the kid, the mom has the baby, this baby's grown inside of me, and the dad's I thought something was going to happen when the baby was born and it didn't. I can't believe, I don't know what to do, right? Mm-hmm. I want him to be having that kind of struggle, and I want him to in this moment and basically admit to that. That's what I want to have Kyle going through. I also want there to be a reason that maybe Brandon is a sociopath. Maybe there's something that is behind that. Is Kyle abusive to him? No. We don't have that very easy explanation. So I don't think that it would be really sort of disinteresting to me if Kyle was just beating Brandon all the time. That would not be compelling to me, but him having a father who does not love him,
and he can sense it,
and he knows it. Yeah, maybe there's an element of that that maybe contributed to the sociopathy somehow. This movie, in my telling, is not going to answer that question, but I want that tension to be there. Is he just born a sociopath? Maybe. Did he become how he became because his father didn't love him? Maybe. Probably not. Maybe. Who knows? Maybe it's an element. I want that tension to be there. I think that's interesting to me. So then we cut back to the aunt and uncle's house, right? Marilee is there. He stalks her through the house, that whole thing. There is one thing about the scene that bothered me, or a couple things. So the first is that Brandon attacks Noah when Noah finds him in the closet. And Noah's first impulse is to get into the truck and drive away rather than flee into his own house, which is what most people would do in that situation, especially because he leaves his wife behind. So he's like, fuck, I'm out of here in the original movie. So I want him to actually go, the main thing that we're changing there, at least at the house portion of it, is I want him to try and go to the house, and Brandon prevent him from doing that. So I want him to. I'm fine with the truck escape sequence. That's okay that he does, that it plays out in that basic way. But I want to have it be a little more logical for him. His first impulse to not be bye, wife. Good luck with that, right? So that change is, I think, going to be important. The other thing is no memeing. Right. Yeah. So as he dies, he's like, no, as he sees him flying, that must go faster. It's like the scene. I always think about the scene in Jurassic Park when Ian Malcolm is injured and he's on the back of the Jeep and the T-Rex is chasing them. Right. And he's going, must go faster, must go faster, must go faster. Right. So he can do that because he's played by Jeff Goldblum, and he was the first person to do that in a movie, right? Nobody else can ever do that ever again.
Right.
Because people have to care that they're dying. Right. They have to care. But if your character is like, oh, no, hell no, must go faster. Like, they don't care that they're dying. They should care. Yeah. That matters to them. Like, these characters have to be invested in their own survival. Right?
Yeah.
So, like, you can't make the moment light in that way. So that's a problem. So, I'm the horror of that, and watching that at the time, is like, this should work better than it does, because the electrical problems are happening with the truck. The headlights go out, and so Brandon is standing there, and then the lights come back on. He's levitating now, and the lights go back off, and he's closer now. The lights go off. Now he's gone. This is very classic horror stuff, right? But it's effective, and there's a reason that people are playing that particular hit over and over again. I think that should work better than it does. I think that's the reason that it doesn't. I do think that there is the CG there doesn't work. You know, what can you do about that?
And they really linger on it too.
Yeah. So that were that a practical like appliance that they put on him or something, I think that would have been much more impactful. So, but yeah, I don't tend to focus on those sorts of things. Anyway. So we proceed on from here. At this point is the nightmare sequence, which I do actually like a lot in the original movie. So Kyle has a nightmare. He wakes up in his bed. The shot is framed in the same way that it was in the very beginning of the movie, except he looks over and he's looking directly into the woods. So his house is continuous with the woods. He walks out. Tori's holding the baby. Or it's a swaddled thing, at least, as far as he can tell. And he approaches Tori. There's black fluid sort of leaking from the swaddling thing. And then Tori, her eyes go white. And there's black ooze sort of coming from them. And she's like a dead or putrefying figure. And then the camera goes over to the baby. And he's a little monster. Blah! Right? So there's a dumb jump scare there. Mm-hmm. So that's that. I think that sequence works really well until the baby jump scares you. Not effectively, because there's no way to make a baby jump scare you. That's never going to work. So I think there's a way to make that scary. So the way I have it is that night, Kyle has a nightmare of the night on which they found Brandon, in which he sees Tori swaddling him. But instead of appearing as a regular baby, he appears as a swaddled black void in a baby's shape. So have it be that Kyle reaches out to baby Brandon, and baby Brandon reaches out to him. And then as soon as they touch, he wakes up. He's terrified, right? There's no jump scare. Mm-hmm. But dreams don't work like that. Mm-hmm. Things don't, like, what is frightening to you in a dream does not work on cinematic rules necessarily. Mm-hmm. So you can have a dream that has a jump scare, but a lot of the time somebody can just walk up to you and it's just like a scary thing, and it says hi, and then you wake up and you're just terrified and you don't know why, right? Because dreams don't work like that, at least not necessarily. So if
figures of mysterious significance,
but you wake up, you're in a cold sweat, you're terrified, right? I want him to have that. Let's have that moment. I think that's much more interesting. That would kind of stick with you in a way. Mm-hmm. This empty black figure, right? Mm-hmm. Empty inside, kind of like a sociopath, right? So if we have that would be a much more impactful moment. So, where do we move on? So we have the call from Merrily. We have the drunk driving accident, the hospital, catching Brandon in a lie. The next morning, Tori and Kyle inform Brandon of Noah's death, but Brandon's pained reaction is clearly half-hearted. That's the change. So in the original movie, Brandon doesn't give a shit about that. He's like, what, you want me to cry? Dumb mom and dad. So he's clearly acting like an asshole. I don't want him to do that. I want him to pretend to care. So let's at least have him pretend to be a human. I think that it loses a lot of the tension is lost if he's just going to pretend, if he's not even going to pretend to be a human anymore at this point in the original movie. So I think that's not so great. So we proceed on. Let's see. Kyle accuses Brandon and grabs him. Brandon violently shoves him. Kyle finds Brian with a blood-stained shirt. Tori refuses to believe that Brandon killed Noah. She tells Kyle that she will never turn against her son. And Kyle retorts that he is not their son. So that's the same. Here's the change. Provoking Tori to slap him in the face. So I want that reaction to be much more aggressive. That is like the unspeakable sin. If you're an adoptive father, like that's the thing. You can never ever say that. Ever, ever, ever. You just can't say that. As soon as you adopt that child, you lose. You're choosing to give up the right to say those things. Here he's giving up Brandon effectively. I mean, that's what's happening in that scene. That's not our son. So she rejects that in a way that's probably appropriate. Should somebody ever say something like that, that's a bigger moment in the movie. I mean, that is a big fight for them in the movie, but it's not enough to me. Like, I think that isn't enough. I don't think it's enough given the way that Tori reacts to him. So later on, so I think that's important to really underscore that's a sin to say something like that out loud. So we proceed further. The police station, sheriff notices the photograph of Brandon's emblem again. We move along. I like everything that proceeds from here with the hunting in the woods. I like that sequence a lot. I think that pretty much works. I like his emotional strife at shooting him and the bafflement, like, oh fuck, there's nothing I can do to hurt this kid. that whole thing, right? There's one thing I don't like about it though. So as we proceed on, it happening at the same time, more or less, we have the sheriff showing up at Tori's house, wanting to speak to Brandon. He shows Tori the emblem that he's been drawing. And what she then does is she goes up to the notebook and where the drawing happened and finds a bunch of disturbing drawings of the murders. I'm cutting that. Because that feels it feels very trite to me, frankly. So
scary children's drawings,
children drawing spooky shit in their little innocent way. It's so trite. Yeah. I don't like that really. So that's just as a choice. Like, I think we can do better than that. So what we already have here is, like, immediately following that, she calls Kyle, which that is something that could happen easily enough. Because, like, hey, Kyle, the police are showing up asking about our son. Your wife, and am calling you my husband and the father of this child. Like, there's a perfectly good reason for somebody to make a phone call in that moment, especially because she does know about the emblem. So, I mean, she understands that already. She knows something's up. So she calls Kyle, but Brandon answers the phone, informs her Kyle's dead. So we proceed on from there. Brandon begins destroying the house, that whole thing. She runs out to the... I like that sequence decently well, again, in isolation. I think in recontextualizing everything that's building up to it, I think it will work better. So I don't change very much about him killing the police. I like the way that he completely obliterates the sheriff. Also very much in the vein of Scatman Carruthers in The Shining. Like, he's going to be your big figure. He's going to save the day, and he just dies instantly. I can't remember which movie it is. I wrote in, like, the same scene for it in allusion to that. I've forgotten now. Oh,
it was Urban Legend. Reese dies instantly.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I changed it because in a reference to The Shining. And then little did I know that Brightburn beat me to it. Anyway, So, I like that anyway, that whole thing. I like the way that she tortures the poor deputy. That's all great and fun. So we proceed on. Tori, so here's where changes begin in earnest. Tori arms herself with a piece of the ship to stab Brandon. She calls to him using the whistle that they used in their game of hide and seek, prompting him to reveal himself. He sits across from her in the barn, and he cries. He says that he does not understand what is happening to him. He says that he is frightened. He says that Kyle tried to kill him. His own father tried to kill him, and he did not know what else to do. He says he loves her. He has watched her long enough to know exactly which words she needs to hear, and in which order. Tori drops the fragment of the spacecraft. She takes him in her arms. After a moment, she hears the sound of the airplane overhead. She tells him that she loves him, that she'll never abandon him, and that she has a plan. Brandon flies into the sky and sees the airplane overhead. Then the screen cuts to black. News coverage in the days that follow report that Brandon and Tori are the sole survivors of the accident, that Kyle and all the passengers and crew of the plane were killed. Tori gives a statement to the media that Brandon shielded her with his body, and she describes her son as her hero. The end. Now, the credits, that sequence, I like that. Keep that more or less the same, that he basically continues on his little reign of terror. But yeah, I have Mom, she's all in. That's my son. I will never abandon you. She says that the whole fucking movie. The whole movie she says that. And in the end, the little serial killer, he's got her wrapped around his finger. That's the movie. So yeah, that's my idea.
I think you will be very interested to hear my revision.
I think here's the thing about that. So I think there's a really good chance. I mean, obviously, because you just teased that. But here's the thing. This solution that I've come up with, it's fairly obvious. Like, this movie feels like it's crying out for that. I mean, I'm sure there'll be some things I changed that you didn't or whatever, but I wouldn't be at all surprised if you basically came up with the exact same solution, or if it's something very close to what I've done.
You know, I've got to say, I mean, your revision gives me the classier family drama character study that I was hoping for. Like, this movie sounds much more appealing to me than the original version. Like, that, I think it's really successful.
It's much darker, really.
Maybe so,
it's much
but
more difficult, but yeah.
But it feels more.
I like this. I like that idea.
It feels more honest. I think,
sure.
To like human experience, and it gets rid of that which is extraneous. I kind of think that my revision, like, I've left some things in or some elements in that I wish I had done, like, more like you, change them. But you'll see what you think.
Okay.
But yeah, great job as always. See, this I can get behind. So hopefully you feel the same way about mine. I guess
I'm excited to hear it. Let's do it.
All right, let me adjust myself here. Okay, so like you, I left the beginning more or less the same, where, there's the crash outside, they investigate, and then you see the montage of home videos. 12 years later, Tori goes to wake young Brandon, but he's already awake, instigating a game of hide and seek with his mother. They whistle to one another as Tori searches for Brandon, finding him in the barn, a building where Brandon is not permitted to be, prompting a light chastisement from his father, though their dynamic appears wholesome and idyllic. Brandon's parents wish him a happy birthday before he heads off to school, promising a fun evening to follow. So I wanted to tighten up the timeline a little bit, because there just seemed like a lot of faffing about. We'll see how it goes. Later, Brandon is in class and is seen drawing a stylized emblem in the shape of his initials. While he is distracted, he is asked a question by his teacher about the difference between wasps and bees, though he is able to answer it in much greater detail than was called for, prompting both the jeers of a larger bullying classmate and the encouragement of his other classmate, Caitlin, on whom he seems to have a crush. After school, as Brandon is walking home, the bullies shove Brandon around just a little and rifle through his notebook, which is full of the emblem as well as other drawings of various subjects, like superheroes, animals, and, most personal of all, one of Caitlin. The leader of the bullies messes up some of the drawings and calls him a sick freak. Brandon, humiliated, grabs his notebook and flees home as the bullies jeer behind him. Tori, painting, hears Brandon come inside and greets him in the kitchen. She notices he is dusty and upset. Not wanting to hurt his pride, she asks him about what he learned at school that day, but he is not in the mood to talk about it. She tells him to go get changed so that they can go out for his birthday. Mood brightening, Brandon dashes off while Tori fixes him an after-school snack. Noticing the emblems drawn all over the cover of his notebook, Tori goes to peek at the drawings inside, but she stops when Brandon comes running back downstairs. Seeing that she was poking around, he snatches the notebook up and stows it. The family, including Aunt Marilee and Uncle Noah, celebrate Brandon's 12th birthday at a diner where Caitlin's mother, Erica, is the waitress. Brandon has no friends at the party, but the adults do their level best to make it a fun celebration. Brandon resists taking the small birthday cake Erica brings, stating it's for little kids, but ultimately he acquiesces. Noah and Marilee gift Brandon a BB gun, which Tori seems to know in advance is coming, though Kyle refuses to let Brandon have it, mentioning to Tori that they'd already discussed this. Brandon doesn't understand why he isn't allowed, given that many of his classmates have already moved on to real hunting rifles, and BB guns are practically for babies. He insists that he should have the BB gun and acts insolently and apparently out of character, causing a scene, so Kyle and Tori take him home immediately. That night, the parents worry that Brandon is growing older and changing, though Tori says that they were much worse at his age, and that her parents had stopped caring about her at all by that age. Tori suggests that the three of them go camping together to make up for the failed birthday dinner. So with this, I thought it was insane that anyone would give a child a gun without asking the parents. I thought that was absolutely bonkers.
Yeah.
And so I changed it to a BB gun because, like, every rural kid where I grew up with a BB gun.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like a quote unquote gun for kids.
Right.
But it's still, it's still a projectile weapon.
Yeah.
And a parent could reasonably have, objections to that. Yeah, I also, because
the other thing about that, of course, is that they do it in a diner. Like in a public place.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that.
I didn't mind that detail because I'm like, this feels very Kansas to me.
That's so funny, though.
But yeah, they do it in a public restaurant. We're going to open up our gun.
Yeah. Oh, gosh, that's really funny. I didn't even think about that until now. But yeah, I'm just like, this is not human behavior, or else I just don't know anything about Kansas, which, jury's still out.
I don't know anything about Kansas. Yeah.
Oh gosh. Okay. So the next part is the same where there's the red glow in the barn. I really like that you change that to lessen, there's no element of hypnotic control or whatever mind control that the ship has over him. I think that was a smart choice. I didn't think to take it out, so I'm embarrassed, but we're just going to do what we can. So Tori sees Brandon sleepwalking, doesn't really tell Kyle about it. All that's the same. The next day, Kyle and Brandon do yard work together. As they tidy the property, Brandon asks why he isn't allowed to have the BB gun. Kyle explains that he never wants Brandon to think of a gun as a toy. They are weapons and tools, but never something to use simply for fun. He asks Brandon to remind him of the axiom they always repeat when on hunting trips together, and a reluctant Brandon says, "You only point a gun at something when you mean to shoot it." Father and son make up, and Kyle promises to buy Brandon his first hunting rifle when he turns 16. Kyle then says that in the meantime, they can take a camping trip that weekend. Kyle leaves to go to the hardware store, asking Brandon to mow the lawn. So the gun incident is just kind of dropped, and I wanted there to be a little bit of an emotional bridge, and for the camping trip to feel connected to everything that had come before. So that's why I did that. Brandon has difficulty starting the lawnmower and inadvertently launches it into the air, tossing it an extraordinary distance. He approaches it as it is overturned and still running, and, while hearing the alien language, seems to fall into some sort of trance. Compulsively, he thrusts his hand into the spinning blade, destroying it. Coming out of the trance, Brandon gasps, and he rushes to return the mower to their property. He lies to his mother, telling her that the mower was damaged by rolling over a large stone. So I thought this moment was kind of dumb in the original movie, where he's like, oh, I threw the mower really far. Let me just jam my hand up in the blades.
Yeah.
I wanted to make it just extra clear, like, he is compelled to do this. Like, his powers are, like, forcibly awakening in him. Mm-hmm. And he's not super in control of his body. Because that is the only reason that makes sense to me, where someone would be like, okay, I'm really strong. Am I also invulnerable? So again, I think you wisely took out the sort of out of body quality of his awakening, but we have what we have. That afternoon, as the family are preparing to leave for their camping trip, Tori finds photos of lingerie and swimsuit models, surgical diagrams, and graphic photos of human organs hidden underneath the mattress in Brandon's room. Out in the woods, Kyle awkwardly attempts to give Brandon the talk about sexuality because he believes the boy is exhibiting signs of puberty. He does his best to ask Brandon about his interest in organs and bodies without directly admitting that he saw the photos. Brandon, however, figures out the deception and says that he just thought the pictures would be cool to draw in his notebook. Relieved, Kyle tells Brandon that there's nothing wrong with being interested in other people's bodies. So you kind of liked like the slightly humorous moment of Kyle giving the talk to Brandon. I didn't love it just because I was like, if I found my kids like dirty pictures and there were like vivisection pictures in there, I think we would be having a different talk than the talk, or at least that would be part one of a, and it was never really addressed. And like, I thought there was maybe a way to do that where Kyle's sort of probing, like what is it that you see here? What is interesting about this to you? Is it a conflation of your sexuality and these violent images? Or is this just your secret stash of like, oh, these are my like sexy pictures, and these are like the photos that mom probably wouldn't want me to have that I'm just drawing or whatever. I thought there was kind of room for that. Because kids have all kinds of weird little things that they hide. Okay. The next part is the same. I like the part where he sneaks off from the campsite to go to Caitlin's house, scares the shit out of her. Blah, 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 blah. They return home, da, da, da. The next school day, Aunt Marilee talks to Tori about taking Brandon to a behavioral specialist to work through some of his minor issues. But Tori attributes his behavior to puberty. So kind of switching who says what in that conversation. The next stuff is the same. The incident with the chickens, the trust fall exercise, Erica calling out Brandon for being a little monster, the parents defending him, etc. So later that evening, Brandon is drawn to the trapdoor again, and he begins to understand the alien language. He breaks the lock on the cellar door. Tori interrupts him as he levitates above the open cellar, chanting the ship's message, and he falls, disappearing from sight. By the time Tori has made it down to him, she finds that he has cut himself on the barn's mysterious contents, a small, scrapped spaceship that resembles an escape pod. Both Tori and Brandon note this is the first time he has ever been injured. A shocked Brandon clutches a small bundle of cloth containing a red cape and a knitted mask. Tori reveals the truth about his arrival on Earth, that she had difficulties getting pregnant, and that they found him in the ship in the woods as a baby, taking him in and raising him as their own. The mask and the cape were the only other objects in the pod. So I just wanted to... I missed...
That's what it is in Superman.
Oh, right. Yeah, that's right.
The costume.
Right. I wasn't even thinking about that.
It's in the ship.
That's right. He was like swaddled in it or something. As a baby, yeah. Yeah. I missed the detail that like the mask or whatever was his security blanket. I totally missed that. So I just wanted to make it clear where it came from.
Sure. Yeah.
Brandon angrily leaves the barn, entering the house and smashing things and calling his parents liars. In his rage, he finally understands the ship's message. Herald our coming. It is then that he develops heat vision. Brandon visits Caitlin with flowers, who nervously tells him that her mother has forbidden her from talking to him. Brandon replies that he'll fix that. Wearing the red mask and cape, Brandon stalks Erica while she's closing the diner, drawing his emblem in the condensation on the windows. His powers cause electrical disturbances, provoking the fluorescent light bulbs to explode, dazzling Erica. The restaurant goes dark. A terrified Erica retreats to the walk-in refrigerator and locks the door, but Brandon, using his newly developed heat ray, blasts it open. The blast pins Erica beneath the crumpled door. Brandon enters the freezer and uses his immense strength to partially crush Erica beneath its weight. The door's weight, that is. The next morning, Brandon tells his parents that he feels much better about what he's learned. After Brandon leaves for school, Tori tells Kyle that the metal spaceship cut Brandon's hand. She wonders if that might have anything to do with his intense and sudden mood swings. So, I changed a few things here. Obviously, I changed the message that he hears from the ship from Take the World. I think that sounds dumb. I just don't think it's cool. Okay. And I wanted a slightly different valence, because there's a clear comparison made, or like a clear sort of thing that happens when he's in that class and is talking about like wasps taking over host nests and stuff. So I was like, okay, can we align this closer to that image?
Sure.
And make it sound less, in my opinion, stupid. I also changed, Erica does not have her eyeballs cut open. She's just like, she's temporarily blinded when the lights burst. And you see a little bit more of Brandon tormenting her physically, rather than it just cutting to the next scene. We also have Tori telling Kyle about the fact that he was injured. Okay. Police investigate the diner, finding Brandon's emblem drawn on the windows, though Erica is nowhere to be found, and they are completely unable to explain what happened at the scene. The following day at school, Brandon meets with Marilee, who informs him that she is required to report his lack of remorse to the police. That night, Brandon goes to Marilee's house and tells her, in a threatening manner, not to report anything to the police. Afterward, Brandon stalks Marilee through her home until she goes to bed. Moments later, Noah arrives, back from the bar with Kyle and friends. He creeps into the dark bedroom, tipsily kisses the still form of Marilee, and climbs into bed, not realizing that Marilee is dead, her windpipe savagely crushed. Once Noah falls asleep, Brandon uses his heat vision to set the breaker box on fire. The entire house goes up in flames quickly, burning the bodies of Noah and Marilee until they are completely unrecognizable. Brandon stands in the dewy grass and watches the house burn, the firelight reflecting in his empty eyes. So, obviously that's a little bit different. Mm-hmm. I was just like, we all know where this is going. He's going to start killing women. Like, this is just, that's what the movie suggests, so let's bear that out, or see it borne out. I did not like Noah's death. I thought it was stupid. I thought, like you said, shouldn't be memeing before we die. Mm-hmm. That's just, that doesn't feel real. So hence the sort of double murder. Okay. Brandon returns home in his underwear, telling his parents that other students tore his clothes and pushed him in a mud puddle while playing soccer late after school. His parents recognize that he is clearly lying, but they also recognize they are out of their depth. That night, Kyle has a nightmare of the night on which they found Brandon, in which he sees Brandon as a monster. I didn't make a note of this, but I would also take out the baby jump scare just because I otherwise like the dream, as you said. They're awoken by a call from the sheriff, who tells them the news that Marilee and Noah have burned to death. At the hospital, the sheriff reveals that the fire is being investigated as an arson, as footprints were found in the woods behind the house. The next morning, Tori and Kyle inform Brandon of Noah and Marilee's death, but Brandon has little reaction, which alarms Tori and angers Kyle. When Kyle accuses Brandon and grabs him, Brandon violently shoves him. Kyle then finds Brandon's clothes in the garbage can outside, noting that they smell strongly of smoke. He shows them to Tori, but she refuses to believe that Brandon had anything to do with her sister's and Noah's deaths. She tells Kyle that she will never turn against her son, and Kyle retorts he isn't their son. Kyle storms off to the barn, and we see a shot of him running his hands over the brittle, blackened metal of the escape pod. Later, Kyle looks through mementos of Brandon's youth before going to bed and apologizing to Tori. He tells her that he is going to take Brandon on a hunting trip. Unbeknownst to her, the trip is a deception, and Kyle's real intention is to kill Brandon. While Brandon is examining deer tracks, Kyle shoots him with a bullet made from the metal of the spaceship, but the shot goes slightly wide, piercing Brandon's collarbone instead of his head. Brandon, hurt emotionally and physically, grabs Kyle roughly and flies him into the sky. Meanwhile, the town sheriff arrives at the Briars' house and asks Tori to see Brandon. Tori tells the sheriff that Kyle and Brandon aren't home, so the sheriff shows Tori the symbol found at the scenes of Erica's disappearance and Noah's and Marilee's deaths. He also notes that the footprints found at the scene of the crime are of a child-sized shoe. Tori claims ignorance, despite definitely having seen Brandon drawing that symbol before. When the sheriff leaves, Tori desperately searches for Brandon's notebook and looks through the disturbing drawings contained inside, signs at the very least of a warped and tormented psyche. So I would also take the murder pictures out, but just, things that like a troubled person might fixate on, that you could see in art. She closes her eyes and takes a deep breath. She attempts to call Kyle, but is then startled by the sound of a heavy thud. Brandon has come home, prepared to kill both his mother and father. He dumps Kyle, beaten, bruised, and almost unconscious, in the barn. Meanwhile, Brandon begins destroying the house and terrorizing his adoptive mother. Terrified, Tori calls to him using the whistle that they used in their game of hide and seek, prompting Brandon to reveal himself. The two embrace. Tori tells Brandon that she believes in him no matter what, and that she'll always help him no matter the trouble in which he finds himself. Brandon tells her to prove it, dragging her to the barn where a helpless Kyle waits. Brandon forces Tori to pick between her husband or her son. Slowly, Tori retrieves one of Kyle's hunting rifles from his gun locker. Trembling and crying, she executes Kyle as he weakly protests. Brandon looks on with satisfaction, saying in a strange alien voice, "There shall be a place for you." Suddenly, however, he senses a noise. The sheriff and his deputy have arrived with a search warrant. Brandon brutally dispatches them almost as quickly as they appear, leaving Tori alone. She is shocked to discover Erica's mutilated body nailed to a wall and surrounded by Brandon's emblem written repeatedly in blood. So, different. I'll just finish us out. When the dust clears, only Brandon and Tori remain. Though Brandon is covered from head to toe in the sheriff's blood, Tori gently wipes his face clean and advises him that they need to destroy the remaining evidence as quickly as possible. Brandon says again he will take care of it. The next day, police, paramedics, and the FBI are at the farm investigating an inexplicable airplane crash, which has killed everyone on board. News coverage reports that none of the farmstead's residents could have possibly survived. Brandon and Tori watch the scene from high above in the air. Tori asks what Brandon is going to do next, and he replies simply, "I want to go to Caitlin's house." As the credits roll, a sequence of increasingly grim news reports suggest not only has Brandon's reign of terror continued, growing ever wider, but there seems to be an incursion of alien ships. The end.
Alrighty. Yeah, so our Tories both broke bad.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
How about that?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, because I was like, if we're going to get nasty, let's get nasty.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I like the idea. So you kind of did Superman 2.
Oh, did I? I've never seen any of those movies all the way through.
I've never seen Superman 2. But Superman 2 has a bunch of other Kryptonians show up to conquer Earth.
Oh, it's like General Zod or something?
That's General Zod. I think they're Australians. Like they're from get out of a penal colony. And come to the planet to beat up Superman. I don't know. I haven't seen it.
I really don't know much about Superman's rogues gallery, so that's pretty funny.
I don't exactly go deep on this. Yeah, but that makes complete sense though. That would be the thing that the movie is building up to. That there's going to be an invasion of crypto, whatever those. I guess they're not Kryptonians in this. We don't know what they are.
Jump scare babies. That's their only power.
That's right. That's that leans more on the alienness of them. Yeah, that turning into that becomes obviously. I mean, Superman is an alien, but it's not like you don't think of it as being like an alien invasion thing,
right?
Which obviously it does become in your version of the story. But
yeah, I mean, my Brandon's still more of like a Manchurian candidate figure than like a true sociopath, but I did still traffic in some of that imagery, obviously. Sure. So I think I prefer your revision to mine, but there are some things that I like about mine. Like I just tried to straighten out the timeline to something that made more sense to me, and like to rectify what I saw as like an unsuccessful escalation of events. But yeah,
I see what you're saying. I mean, I like the sociopath angle more ultimately, but I think there's a lot of clarity stuff in yours that would serve, that I could pretty usefully import into mine.
Sure. Yeah, that's usually not my first concern, but here I felt like I just didn't have that much to grasp, and so I went for the structural edit.
Right. Okay. Well, we feel good?
Yeah.
All right. I feel good too. So then you know what that means.
What does that mean?
It means, which revision would you most like to see on screen? What movie would you like to see us cover next? Let us know at thedevilsworkshoppod@gmail.com.